I will say that things to do doesn't make it not a sandbox, right? And at the same time, you are in one breath complaining about a lack of content, and in the other breath complaining about the content that they're doing. Wait, sandboxes don't have park owners? Okay, some of them do. If they're a fancy sandbox that a lot of people are supposed to be using at the same time, yeah, there's usually somebody who watches over it. Thank you guys for joining us down the rabbit hole, Steve Online. Okay, so Valor's, I mean, let's get on with the Evermore. We'll finally get back to Evermore. Hold on, let me make a marker so that way I can find this in the future. Actually, you know what? I'm putting on an ad. I'm punishing you all for this. I'm kidding, but we're gonna make it so there's no ads for a little bit. Hold on. Just a minute long one. Now that all of the unpaid people and people that don't use ad block are gone, you guys are the real heroes. Awesome. All right, let's see. 10 seconds. Hey, everybody should be back now. Is Cream Villain? Hey, how's it going? I mean, arguments like there's no sand left in the sandbox either it suggests to me that either you're actually not playing the game or you are so tilted that you're not talking straight anymore. Actually, you know what? You know what I think it is? I think that this goes back to a different video, Josh Rife Hayes. I think I made a video talking about it before. But the idea of what is a sandbox and what is a theme park. And the nature of a sandbox is your ability to impact the world, including other players, right? Theme park is about having experiences that you guys go do. Sandboxes are about impacting and creating like changing the world in some way, right? Having a player crafted world. So with that understanding in mind, for the sandbox to not exist, or for there to not be any sand in the sandbox, there would have to be no structures in the game. Just saying. I mean, among other things, but least of which that. All right. And to everybody else, look, man, I appreciate a good straw man as anybody else. Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, and this is your New Eden News for October 13th, YC 124. Interbus reincorporates under new company Evermore. Orifei Genesis. Interbus has announced today that it will be reincorporating. Shoot. Oh, there it is. J55, J5507. Thank you for that. And welcome to the rabbit.
Under a new parent company, Evermore. Just days after the death of Interbus former CEO Hakuka Peruka, newly appointed CEO Alexander Ducasi has announced the extensive restructuring of the corporation. Interbus was founded by the Amar Empire, Caldari State, Galente Federation, and Mimitar Republic to ensure open transportation of goods and people throughout the cluster. Under this new structure, Evermore, a privately controlled entity, will become the major owner of the formerly government-controlled corporation. Interbus has been experiencing a deadlock since the representatives of the founding empires were unable to reach an agreement on the operational future of the company, following rising militia warzone conflicts and the controversial activation of prototype stellar transmuters by the Amar Empire. The restructuring of Interbus under Evermore will end that deadlock as Interbus becomes a private-public concern. Representatives of all four empires welcome the restructuring.
Yeah, I talked about that at the beginning. Hakaka Peruka. It's actually not. It's not Hakuka. Even when I say that all the time, it's Hakaka Pukara. But just because it's been a little while since we had a bit of an aside, it's worth reminding everybody that what's going on right now. Hey, thank you for joining us down the rabbit hole, Chief Online. What's happening here is that on the 2nd of October, the deadlock is in the news, where all four empires walk out without any agreement about Interbus and their operations within the war zone, specifically in the systems with the transmuters. It seems that the Amar were interested in keeping the Mimitar there and not allowing Interbus to help with evacuation. 9 days later, the CEO of Hakaka Peruka, or the CEO of Interbus, dies of a heart attack. He was instrumental in the negotiation, and also he was instrumental in the Mimitar, like during the Mimitar Rebellion and Empyrean Age. I think it was Empyrean Age. The Interbus was a big player in helping evacuate a bunch of the Mimitar from Amar space, and facilitating that transport. So now he's dead, and another guy, Ducasi, has taken over as CEO, and now within a couple of days, so like he dies, the next day the other guy is promoted, the next day Interbus reincorporates into Evermore. All right?
Deal in a joint announcement today saying that it will ensure the continued independence and neutrality of Interbus in uncertain times. The details of the deal has not been disclosed, but it is rumored that Evermore has paid significantly above market price for Interbus shares. A number of longer-serving Interbus executives resigned over the deal, stating that, quote, far from safeguarding Interbus's future, the empires have sacrificed it in order to fill their war coffers, end quote. Alexander Ducasi, CEO of Interbus and now president of Evermore, says that this change in management allows for the New Eden transportation stalwart to, quote, crawl out from under the constraints of international politics and expand beyond its core mission, end quote. Evermore expands with corporate acquisitions and the founding of new companies. Orifei, Genesis. It was also announced today that Evermore's expanded operations will include the acquisition of a number of corporations across New Eden. Interzone Shipping, Zero G Research, Adaptive Provisioning, Valor Spec Ops, and the legendary Kamo Inc. Cloning Corporation are all slated to become Evermore companies upon completion of financing arrangements. The acquisition of these companies has been confirmed by their executive boards and will be finalized in approximately a month's time.
Okay, so there's a lot in this one that isn't being said, right? Sorry. So, Caldari, are you okay? So I will just say, because somebody mentioned it earlier about like banning people. I try not to ban people just because they have an opinion that I disagree with. honestly, mostly because of the fact that, you know, unless they are proving themselves as being not able to be, or like, unless I want to permanently ban them, I don't, because I'm not going to remember to go back and unban them. And then that person is just banned, and, you know, they may not even think that they can talk to me about it. And now they're seething in anger, and maybe they would have a good point in another discussion. So, yeah. But that said, Caldari Waitress, you need to breathe, dude. No one in here is attacking you. We just have different opinions about the game, man. All right. Over here, these 5 companies are interesting for different reasons. So Interzone Shipping is another transportation company. Here. Oh. All that said, that was talking about me. All of you moderators, do what you need to do, I guess. All right, so Interzone Shipping is I think the big Galente shipping system. Zero G Research. Shoot, I had all this stuff looked up at one point. Gosh darn it, hold on. I want to get... Bluetooth V2, thank you for joining us down the rabbit hole, Steve Online. Oh, I think it's also worth looking them up in game, right? Where's my search?
07.
07, who was that? Spoons! How's it going, my friend? All right. Zero G. Member of the Caldari State. Oh, they do space habitats. That's right. They do like structures, planetary, like orbital structures. There's this news article from 2010. 2010 is important because when you hear like 2010 as a news article time, think that it probably has to do with Dust 514. I'll put it that way. So, in 2010, they had to appoint their third COO in 18 months. There was continued delays. They weren't even doing, they were doing pretty poorly at that point. Right now, this says that they've been in a steady decline for the last few decades, so more than just since the Empyrean Age. I'm going to go to universe.eveonline.com and search for 0G. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. So the 0G is about, makes structures and stuff. But what's also interesting about it is that they were one of the groups that were noted as being called in during the Wormhole Summit in YC116. We don't actually know all of the stuff that was talked about here, but we do know that it very likely was about the nature of Caroline Starr, or more importantly, what would later be known as the shattered wormholes, and the changes in wormhole in sleeper behavior. King Zap, thank you for joining us down the rabbit hole, Eve Online. So that does strike me as odd. It also, they are closely connected to Propel Dynamics. Oh shoot, I know what video or what website I want to show you guys. Hold on. Ravas Stratios. I'm so bad at actually finding this. I've had to find this article now like 3 times, and it's like I have to do it from scratch every time. Select categories. Lore. One of the problems with like diving through the past is that people often don't necessarily know what the most important thing that they're looking at is at any given time. So it's like I'm looking for the corporations that are on the Stratios, but that's just a side note in a different article. The enemy of my enemy? Yes. Okay. Now I get to see if I was right or wrong. So Propel Dynamics. Yeah, Zero G Research. So the Zero G Research is branded on the side of the Stratios. And this mystery of like the development of the Stratios, how it works, and what these brandings are here for was never fully outlined. But Ravas at the time wrote this article that kind of broke down his theories about it. But it says that he worked on that likely builder of the containment and quarantine units, life support, and crew accommodations. But my point more interestingly is that this is just another connection to the fact that Zero G is a manufacturing firm, but a manufacturing firm with strange connections to the sleeper mysteries and wormhole space. Why is it that the feed has so much of the stuff in Mandarin? Because I Googled it and found the Chinese version of it first. Or was it Japanese? All right. So going back to the video, we have adaptive provisioning. Adaptive provisioning is one that is kind of interesting too. Adaptive provision. That's definitely not how to spell it. There we go. We'll take that. Yes. So adaptive provisioning is kind of interesting. Translucid Prism, thank you for joining us down the rabbit hole, Eve Online. So in 2005, which is YC107, adaptive provisioning was involved in this scandal involving harvesters of biomass in nullsec. Now, I'm not sure if this was directly tied to dust stuff. CEO of Adaptive Provisionings is said to have led the operation. So it was the CEO himself and declined to give any details regarding the client. Yeah, so they don't actually have an in-game organization, so you can't even look them up. Also, I don't think this is right? No. Yeah. That's literally all I was able to find about them, I'm pretty sure. Why is harvesting biomass a scandal? Let me find out. I guess. Okay, I might be wrong. No, I'm actually wrong. It wasn't actually framed as a scandal. You're right. They were just buying. This is just announcing to Capsuleers that Adaptive Provisioning was buying blank clones or dead clones, corpses, right? I gotcha. Yeah, cadavers. Okay, that makes more sense. So this could have been for the Blood Raiders. I suspect that it might have been for the Dust program, but 2005 is very early for it to be connected to that, I admit. Valor SecOps. I think it's listed. Yeah, it's like at the bottom of the Glentek corporations. In the wake of the infamous Alarel scandal, the Quaife Mega Corporation, hugely embarrassed by the incident, dismissed almost the entire... Oh! Oh, I think I know what this was tied to. These men and women promptly formed their own private security company. So Valor SecOps is one of the paramilitary organizations. So a Merc group. So an infrastructure, life support, construction group, a biomass processor, a paramilitary organization. Is it a deathless group? Not specifically. Although whether or not the deathless is part of this is actually kind of an interesting question, right? If this is a rival or not. So the Cremo Inc. is actually by far kind of the most interesting, because rather than going to the world news or to like the corporation places to get information about it, we're actually going to go to scientific articles and to the cloning section. The cloning section is a giant advertisement for this corporation, Cremo Incorporated, and it otherwise does not have a presence in the game. I'm not 100% sure. I think that this is like totally Dust stuff. I think. So this is talking about the fact that Cremo Inc. at this time had only 1% of the market share, but was intending to control 5% of the clone market in 5 years. I don't actually know when this came out, so I don't know 5 years from when, but let's just say that what we can take from this is that Cremo Incorporated is tightly connected to clone manufacturing. Okay? And yeah, so those 5 groups really piece together what you would need if you wanted to create a Dust-style immortal soldier paramilitary organization. That's the short of it. The joke I made when I read this was, oh, it looks like Interbus is tired of their stuff getting hijacked. So, yeah.
Purchases of these companies represents a significant diversion of Evermore's
By the way, I did actually make 2 mistakes in this one. I just said diversion, and it's diversification. It really bothered me, but I would have to re-record the entire thing because I had already broken down my sound setup, and it's impossible to make it sound exactly the same multiple times. So, but what I was thinking about doing is making it turn red when I said that word, and like maybe even go bam bam.
Portfolio, given only one falls under the traditional Interbus remit. Quote, Evermore is not just a rebranded Interbus, its president informed us. Evermore will represent a new and innovative approach to the connections that bind the people of New Eden. As the Interbus Consortium, we provided reliable links between people regardless of origins or their destination, but were limited by government involvement. As we evolve into the Evermore corporate conglomerate, we will take this same philosophy one step further. Our mission is simple: bring all things to all people. In addition to purchasing these existing companies,
Yeah, he's saying provided because they're talking about transitioning from Evermore. So they're saying as Interbus, we did this, and as Evermore, we will do that. We will continue to do that and this other stuff. Does that make sense?
Evermore is founding a host of new corporations. Verity Enhancements, an augmentation manufacturer for the average New Eden citizen. Vapor Sea Technologies, a cloud-based computing company. And the Interplanetary Media Network, a cluster-wide network of planetary news and entertainment media outlets.
So, and we're going to see some more of this stuff afterwards when we get to the scope video and what came out today. But these three corporations are probably a good idea as to what this is all about, in a way. So, the question is, why are we dedicating a week and basically at least 4 news articles to cover the death of and replacement of and rebranding of a corporation that most players, to be frank, very rarely think about, right? Like, why is this happening? Well, the answer is really simple. We have an expansion coming next month. If you notice, they even say here, the acquisition of these companies have been confirmed and will be finalized in approximately a month's time. So when the expansion comes out, these corporations will now be incorporated inside of Evermore. Does that make sense? Yeah, that should be good. And likewise, we know that Interbus is going to be part of the heraldry system. We got more information about that today, too. But if we look here, you have an augmentation manufacturer for the average New Eden citizen. That tells me, like, commodified implants, cheap, useful, available implants, right? Which reminds me that CCP is doing a skill rework and removing attributes. As part of the removal of attributes, they're going to have to rework how those implants work because they no longer improve the attributes. So chances are, whatever comes from that fallout, it's going to be this new company, Verity Enhancements, that provides those implants. Or it's cat ears. One of the two. Or both. Vapor Sea Technologies, it's a cloud-based computing company. This has some possibilities, but I think that the funniest, possibly true possibility is that CCP also did a deal with Excel. And so now you'll be able to access data, or like it'll be integrated between Eve and Excel. And beyond that, I think that there's more broadly some rework to the API system. Hold on. There's a rework to the API system coming out, potentially too. And so this cloud computing company probably will be facilitating that. Shara, I mean, I suspect it's probably going to be something like that. But I also suspect that it may not be that straightforward. Like maybe they'll stack on each other like pirate implants do. But we have no we've heard nothing from CCP about it besides the fact that they will need to redo it. So I kind of don't want to speculate too much until we have at least something to chew on. But yeah, I mean, it's a safe assumption. Now, the nightmare scenario... Never mind, I'm not even going to say the nightmare scenario. All right. And then the final one is Interplanetary Media Network. And I think that this is probably the most interesting one. Because we already have Scope. So why do we need a new media network? What are they planning on doing with this media network? So I assume that either this will facilitate new... anything from tutorials to something else, or along those lines in game. But I think that this new interplanetary media network will focus more on covering, well, let's just be straight up, the shooter, right? Or at least like the modern events. Like the Scope deals with big lore events, and then this will track things like Warzone changes or something like that. I'm not sure, but I feel like it's probably going to be some sort of thing like that, but that's complete speculation too.
Founding a host of new corporations: Verity Enhancements, an augmentation manufacturer for the average New Eden citizen; Vapor Sea Technologies, a cloud-based computing company; and the Interplanetary Media Network, a cluster-wide network of planetary news and entertainment media outlets. Ducasi assured the Scope that, quote, "In this dark times, Evermore will show you the way to a brighter tomorrow. As we grow closer to fulfilling our dreams for a better, more connected New Eden, we hope you will all join us. Over the coming days, we will have announcements to follow. For Evermore, this is only the beginning."
Okay, so this is obviously a kind of a big deal that's happening. And it's a lot happening all at once. This actually does kind of, in my opinion, lend credence to the idea of a conspiracy, because Ducasi sure was ready to step in and make these sweeping changes very, very quickly, almost as if the people in the correct places knew that this was going to happen. But at the same time, shoot, I was going to say something else, but now I can't think about what it was. Yeah. So now we have, no, he died. He died of of heart failure. It was a heart attack. Yeah. 9 days after he was integral to the negotiations that were ongoing. Either way, what I find interesting about this is that, like, there is a lot of that questioning of, like, oh gosh, what is Interbus going to do about the systems with the transmuters in it? What's going to happen with the Empires not even able to agree long enough for them to happen? Oh my gosh, there's a murder, or there's a death under weird circumstances. But now we're talking about this new organization and going to the future and doing all this other stuff. It really feels like it's like, hey guys, forget about all that other stuff. It's going to be a bright future, dudes. Like I get a sense of that in this, where it's designed to be like a flash and then another flash. So that way these things happened, but now it's like focus on this hand, if that makes sense. Where was that it? Oh, the other thing is that this represents, there's been a lot of political realignments within EVE Online since this whole thing started back in like 2018, 2019. We have the Caldari state has reorganized from being patriots and all those things to the forest faction, the ocean faction, and the mountain faction. We have the Amar restructuring themselves to give more power back to the holders, and some alignments between those holders, especially through like Sorum, Tetramon, or Sorum and Artichaper through the Order of Saint Tetramon. We see in the Galente, of course, we saw a change in president and her very ambitious goals for the Federation. And we also see the rise of now 3 independent large conglomerates or consortiums. We have Upwell Consortium, which builds massive structures and other things devised specifically for Capsuleers, and they now own Outer Ring Excavation. We have the Air Consortium, or I guess Air. I don't think that they're a consortium so much as a new organization with a bunch of funding, but you know, they're basically Sisters of Eve and some other people working together to create both new Capsuleer onboarding systems, but also some advanced research and development that we haven't actually seen anything out of yet. And now, of course, we have Evermore Consortium, which is basically taking over the idea, like transportation and security. That's pretty big. I've been saying this for a long time. It really seems that, especially since like 2018, 2019, CCP has kind of been putting their affairs in order, especially when it comes to the lore, and establishing new characters, new settings, you know, new things, as well as tying them, of course, to the old stuff. They didn't abandon the old stuff. I mean, these things go back to 2005, apparently. But it's more that, like, they're fleshing out their characters so that for their future stories. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like EVE Online has always had a pretty vibrant lore, but because the player base was fairly antagonistic towards it and for other reasons, like, it always remained fairly half fleshed out. So like, there were CEOs of the mega corporations. We didn't even know who they were. There was no picture in game of Rodin when he was president. You know, like, the lore was there, but it was separate. But since 2019, they've been doing, only the pirates had really strong, visible, leaders, right? Rodin was one thing, and of course there's Jamil, but still not the same as like the way that Omir represents the Blood Raiders, or Fatal and the Rabbit represent the Guristas. So I think that CCP, as they're moving towards the shooter and more narrative storytelling and embracing the actual like universe of EVE Online itself, we also see a lot of development of these things. And so I think that Evermore being another player on the field is important in that regard as well, because we see these now massive players. And I guess you could even say that on the other side there's the Deathless Network. So there's 4 sprawling organizations that are independent of empires that have gained control or gained a lot of power in the last half decade or so. And all of them have incredibly sus things in their background.
To follow. For Evermore, this.
Air is actually not that sus. If Air is sus, it's because of how unsus they are.
Is only the beginning. In other news, Caldari State activates new Stargate link between Seminuni and Othanun following Warzone construction efforts. State military construction and naval buildup efforts in Seminuni continue as new Caldari Navy station opens.
So this is cool. Check this out. It actually escalated again today. So if I go back to here, this is their stronghold. This is the picture from the video, from the YouTube video, the Uprising trailer. So it has been not only, hold on, am I doing it right? Yes. Not only is it now way more built up, but if I come in here, you'll actually see that all of these banks now have ships ready to go. So, you know, you could say that things are escalating, I guess. That would be a safe way to put it. Oh, fuck. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah.
Federation matches Caldari naval threat with further development of Amignon and new Federation Navy station. Concord Assembly Conflict and Peacekeeping Committee issues call for, quote, peace and fresh dialogue between interstellar nations, end quote. Marshal Zerdan Sirkosh, quote, peaceful
this is Samanuni, but Amignon on the Galente side has similar structures being built.
dialogue on the surrender of the Mimitar terror state and restoration of the rebel provinces would be most.
I said this earlier, but I fucking love Zerdan Sirkosh and Kaiten Yun and the way that they go back and forth. They've been doing this since for like half a decade now, but obviously all of this has given them plenty of opportunity to go back and forth with each other again.
Between interstellar nations, end quote. Marshal Zerdan Sirkosh, quote, peaceful dialogue on the surrender of the Mimitar terror state and restoration of the rebel provinces would be most welcome.
So Concord says, hey, we should have a new, like, we want to try again to make peace. And Zerdan Sirkosh is like, oh, yeah, if we want to discuss how the Mimitar are going to surrender to us, we'd love to do that.
End quote. Ambassador Kaiten Yun, quote, the Amar Empire has gone beyond all limits of delusional arrogance, and I frankly believe Zirkosh has lost his mind, end quote. Resistance
Kaiten
cells
coming
across
in with the
Pochvin
facts.
report large movements of Triglavian forces on occupied planets and huge increase in industrial traffic from surface to space. Valkyr General Kirill Ifrit and Skarkon Tribal Resistance Army confirm Veles forces, quote, apparently withdrawing as Farog concentrate in strongholds and spaceports. Caldari resistance cells across Cry Perun reports further movements of bioadaptive populations to industrial, military, and space infrastructure locations. Edencom monitors note chatter in Raravos indicate Svarog collapsing and abandoning old Imperial mineworks as large structures appear on surface. Propaganda broadcasts by so-called Provisional Veil Government of Unity dismissed by Federation Navy as, quote, fictional ravings of traitors and the brainwashed, end quote. And that is all for your new
There you go. So the other thing that's interesting to note here is that the all of this Triglavian stuff, we do have, this is around the same time as the new Triglavian side of the event was coming live. So now there's a bunch of Triglavian data sites that are able to be ran to get the new data for the Caldari Galente, of course. But what this is kind of showing is that across all of the systems of Pochvin, like, the thing is that the Triglavians are not a cohesive whole, especially since the formation of Pochvin. They've split out into their three clades, Veles, Perun, and Svarog, and there's actually been a significant amount of interconflict between the three for since the formation of Pochvin. I believe that they would call this the dialectics of the concrete, but either way, what this is showing is that across all of Pochvin, it seems as if the Triglavians are taking shelter. They are contracting. They have built new fortifications, and they're kind of pulling in. This could mean a few things. It could be that the Triglavians are concerned about a strike from Edencom, now that there's a direct link between Samanuni and Edencom Fortress and Othanun, a Triglavian minor victory. Or we're just going to go full tinfoil, and I'll enticingly say maybe they're getting ready for whatever happens to the solar system when those anchorages turn on. But all that said, that's it for that. Which I think leads us to today. What if these are medical facilities? I mean, it depends on your definition of medical facilities, but probably are. But the point is that they were expanding for a long time, and now they've contracted really quickly. Do we know anything about the structures in Pochvin Home Systems or what happened to the World Arcs? The World Arcs are still there. And the structures in Pochvin Home Systems are the anchorages I just referenced. Pochvin has not been stabilized yet. Oh my gosh, I just realized I never got to go into my like crazy theory about all that stuff. We got distracted and moved on. Uh-oh, we should go back to that sometime soon. But that brings us to today. A whole bunch of cool mystery and like, ooh, Evermore's coming. They are probably going to be related to the Interbus stuff and the expansion. Ooh, yay. And then today happened. Like, comment, subscribe.
Deep concerns have arisen across New Eden following the Amarr Empire's activation of prototype stellar transmuters in the Amarr-occupied Minmatar systems of Turner, Vard, and Egmar. The constellations these systems belong to have also seen increased Amarr Navy and Minmatar Republic fleet activity in recent months as Imperial forces aimed to capitalize on the strength of the 24th Imperial Crusade's occupation of much of the war zone. That these apparently experimental stellar manipulation projects are taking place far from Amarr population centers and in occupied territory has fueled rumors that such experiments bear a significant risk of system-wide catastrophes. Active fighting in and around their locations has only further alarmed the interstellar community. The Amarr Empire's captain, Marshal Sirdan Zerkosh, has dismissed protests at the Amarr actions and claims that Imperial law and interstellar treaties permit infrastructure development and resource extraction in occupied territories. Republic Ambassador Kate...
I recommend that you go to my YouTube and watch the video entitled "Why the Imperial Stellar Transmuters Matter," I think. But it has his picture and it says he must be stopped. I'm still of that opinion.
Development and resource extraction in occupied territories. Republic Ambassador Ketan Yun has described the Amarr position as delusional arrogance.
Not going into the fact that Ketan Yun said that Zerkosh has lost his mind, I feel is a missed opportunity.
Public Fleet Hetman General Kath Filmer warned of the grave danger posed by the Imperial stellar transmuters in...
By the way, I think that that's the very first time that we've seen Kenneth Filmer. He comes from elsewhere. He was the Valkyr general for a while. I'll need to look into like his history before I speak too much about it. But I think that this is the very first time that we've actually seen his like avatar doing stuff. We've seen the other guys all, but other than his picture in the orders, we haven't really seen him much.
Kath Filmer warned of the grave danger posed by the Imperial stellar transmuters in systems which are traditionally Republic territory and primarily colonized by Minmatar settlers.
Oh! I didn't catch this the last time. Hold up. Time out. Let's go back and pay attention.
They're traditionally Republic territory and primarily colonized by Minmatar settlers.
So this guy's a Minmatar dude. Is that right? I mean, that's what I'm getting out of this. Am I interpreting this correctly? That this is the Minmatar, this is a Minmatar colony in one of the systems, which would make that guy a Minmatar. We're going to go with priest. Y'all agree with that interpretation, right? Well, glad that wasn't on my list of ideas of who the Space Wizard was.
By Minmatar settlers. In response, the Minmatar Tribal Liberation Force mounted an offensive that captured both the Vard and Egmar systems, among numerous others.
I gotta say, I don't think that this is an accident. CCP knows that we'll key off of this thing. right? Like the entire Upwell trailer was relatively normal, and then it's like suddenly Star Wars scene, and then back to like normal EVE Online stuff. And it obviously caught everybody's attention. They've explicitly not given us anything to go on to try to assemble who this guy is. So we just keep, going after questions. And then again, in the middle of something without any commentary, there's no actual note that's saying anything. There's no like, this planet, whatever. Like you would normally expect something here to say what is the footage being shown. You don't see any of that. It's just CCP's little way of saying like, hey, you have no idea who this guy is, but he's more important. Like he's obviously going to be a thing, right? Interesting.
Colonized by Minmatar settlers. In response, the Minmatar Tribal Liberation Force mounted an offensive that captured both the Vard and Egmar systems, among numerous others.
This is incredible. Not just the fact that CCP managed to add this to their scope video less than, I think, a day. Was it? Egmar fell either yesterday or the day before. So, incredible work by the Minmatar Republic militia forces in their attacks. The Gallente, of course, have been struggling against the Caldari, have not made very much progress, but the idea that the Minmatar managed to take 2 of the 3 transmuters so far, I think is going to be a big deal. And I even said before the main event happened and we just saw the transmuters being built, I said that, if you wanted to impact the story, the most clear and direct way to do it would be to help the Minmatar take one of these transmuter systems. And so likewise, or like in that regard, we're going to see that CCP calls this point out and really this is now a fact that happened. And so the rest of the story will play out based on the idea that the Minmatar captured 2 of the 3 transmuters. So congratulations.
Captured both the Vard and Egmar systems, among numerous others. By this success, the Capsuleer fighters of the Minmatar militia handed control of the Vard and Egmar transmuters to the Republic. Despite the risks, the potential for advances in energy and resource collection technology apparently seem high to the Republic as well as to the Empire. Following the capture of the Vard and Egmar systems, there are no signs that the Minmatar are about to shut down the stellar transmuters. It appears evident that the Republic plans to carry on with testing the technology and intends to develop it for its own use.
In that video, he has his hat in his hand, yeah. So this stood out to me as my oh fuck moment, right? Because what this shows me, there's one of 2 possibilities in my mind. Either the Minmatar are aware that the 3 stars are linked, and therefore turning off one, it could be potentially like dangerous at this point. Who knows? Who knows? But I think it's probably closer to number 2, which is, as much as everybody wants to talk about how dangerous and irresponsible the Amarr are by making these transmuters, in the end, the Minmatar can't help but being lured in by the technology as well, right? It's like the One Ring. They get it in their hands and then they're like, oh, this could give us the power.
Use. In the face of extraordinary developments in the Amarr Minmatar war zone, both sides apparently remain wary of the risks of escalation to full-scale war between the Empire and Republic. Even so, the respective militaries of each empire are taking further steps to recruit Capsuleers to their cause. Access to new naval ship designs are among the offered incentives for assistance in the stellar research efforts of the 2 empires. A rapid deterioration in relations between the Caldari State and Gallente Federation.
Okay, so before we get into this part, I just want to set the tone a little bit. First of all, I'm going to respond to the Minmatar test these things on their own people. The thing is, Iskrim villain, is that it's a different thing. It's like a trolley problem sort of situation, kind of, right? Like the Amarr had to decide where to build the transmuters, but the decision that the Minmatar get is turn the transmuter off or not, right? So now they can evacuate those planets now, in theory. And like, it's not like they can be like, okay, well now let's break this down and put it up in an Amarr controlled system. It's not like they're choosing to test it on their own people. They're choosing to let the test continue and let the information end up in their hands. But the risk of turning it on is still in the hands of the Amarr, if that makes sense.
Duration in relations between the Caldari State and Gallente Federation is threatening to become critical following a number of recent incidents.
Yeah, so that said, what we're about to see here, I saw some confusion about this already. Everything in the next section is past stuff. So I'll point them out as we go, but don't read into these things as like, don't tea leaves this stuff because it's all already happened, okay?
And escalating conflict in the border war zone between the two powers. Earlier this year, a diplomatic crisis followed accusations.
Okay, I gotta do this. I gotta talk about this. I have to talk about this picture. Okay, how do I even talk about this picture? So, I have had people message me today with conspiracy theories about what these light bulbs are for, right? Like, if there's some meaning behind 4 light bulbs, you know, there are 4 lights, right? So let me tell you the story about these light bulbs, okay? These light bulbs, if you don't know, is those are pieces of Unreal, I believe. Basically, when you're not running your game and you're just in the editor, you can see little sprite icons for things that would otherwise not be visible, like lighting. So if you guys remember, back when this video first came out, I think it was the Easter one, right? This frame was up, and I immediately sent it to CCP, and I was like, and they took the video down and uploaded a new one with it fixed. But apparently that fix didn't get archived because they went back and got it again, and they got the old one. They got the one that was clearly taken like when it wasn't running the actual game, and it was showing all of the behind the scenes handles and stuff. So no, I don't think 4 lights means some sort of attack on Jita is imminent. I think it's really funny.
Of Gallente involvement in a massive spy ring operating deep within the Caldari State. The mass defection of spies, and particularly the escape of ringleader and Garista's agent, Esri Hakusosu, is believed to have caused leaks of advanced technology developed as part of the Caldari Navy Dreadnought upgrade program.
This does not mean we're getting faction dreads. This does not mean that there are changes coming to dreads. This does not mean anything about capitals coming. This was the change that happened, right? This event is what justified the cap parts changing and making caps cheaper to build again. Okay? That's why I was saying, like, these are all past events. So this was Siege Green. Yes, Siege Green was the result of this information getting leaked out. So no.
Subsequently, the discovery of a derelict Edencom outpost orbiting Athanon 5 and the uncovering of an apparent Triglavian facility on
I do agree that they should have given a shout out to ASMR News.
the surface of the planet has attracted the attention of both the Caldari State and Gallente Federation. While the exact purpose and nature of the Triglavian facility remains unknown to the public, it is clear that it contains something of great value, as Caldari and Gallente naval squadrons have clashed frequently in the contested system. In the midst of the rising conflict, the Caldari State has constructed a stargate in the system of Samanuni. With the support of Caldari Capsuleers, construction of a connecting gate in the Athanon system has also been completed, giving the state a valuable advantage in recovering Triglavian technology. The Galente Federation has likewise constructed a Stargate in the Amignan system, but are still struggling to complete the construction of its counterpart in Athenon. The undisclosed technology rumored to be found in the Triglavian research facility on Athenon 5 and associated Triglavian relay sites seems to be of tremendous value as both sides compete in a desperate race to acquire a working understanding of it. Rapid construction of military infrastructure and signs of fleet buildups in the Samanuni and Amignan systems have additionally raised concerns that an all-out war between the two empires is imminent. Concord has urged diplomacy on all parties, but escalation seems set to continue. This is Alton Havery, reporting for The Scope.
All right. So, this entire second half of this video is recap, which isn't very common in Scope videos to like spend half of the video showing off previous videos. And they recapped basically the major events since, well, Easter. So why would they do that? I think that the reason why is, like in a TV show, why did they do a clip show? It's not just so that that way they could, you know, it's not just so that they can not have to film anything for that episode and they can just, you know, use what they already have. It's not just that. The big key there is usually those clip shows happen the episode before the final episode / episodes of the season, right? So it's like, hey, right before everything, right before the big thing, we're going to spend some time and make sure that everyone's caught up on all of the details, right? This reminds me of the broadcast from the Triglavians. Right before Invasions, they did their message from Triglav, which in essence summarized their positions. Now, we already knew all of it, more or less, because you could open up the data streams and read them and try to figure them out. But that wasn't widely known because that's hard and complicated and obscure. So just before Invasions, Zoria took over the billboards and broadcasted their message of exactly who they hate and exactly what they expect. And then they continued to do so when they needed to, as kind of a way of making sure that everybody's aware of key information as the story moves forward. And so I think that the reason why they're doing this whole thing is because they're trying to tie the entire arc together. Right? This is a recap of the current arc. Remember they said it's already started? Well, here it is. So, the expansion starts next month. We just got a bunch of cool stuff on Singularity that is very enticing. And clearly, this arc is basically leading up to, if not through, the expansion. Well, see, that's the thing. The Deathless, so you, like, think about it like a story, okay? So the arc was the story of how diplomacy fell apart and the empires went to war. Like any good story, it starts with a catalyst that is otherwise innocuous, or not necessarily like a separate tangent, a mini arc, right? So the Deathless and his arc was the catalyst that destabilized things, right? Because that's what led to, I mean, like, it was the Deathless's agent this guy, Mr. Four Lights here, works for the Deathless. So, you know, that, whatever. So basically, that Deathless piece was the setup, but the story is how the Empire's diplomacy failed and went to war. Do you understand? Does that make sense? Does anybody disagree with that? So in that sense, the Deathless piece of the arc was important, but it was like the prologue. You know what I mean? And I believe that the Deathless will also be important as we go, because it's becoming increasingly clear that the next step after this is the integration with the story, or is the story that leads up to the shooter, right? That's what's being set up. Once the story of the Empires are going to war and developing transmuters is finished, I feel like the next thing that's emerging out of this is the shooter. So I'm not saying it releases them, but I mean, like, if you imagine that this arc goes through Q1 because it's the expansion. Maybe not even this arc, but you get what I'm saying. Like, this expansion goes through Q1 into FanFest next year. And at around FanFest next year, we would get the next big thing. And FanFest next year is a really good time to announce the shooter, I have said since 2019. But not the point. But, you know, they're obviously getting closer and closer. They just opened up their beta, or their alpha, I think it was. So I think that that's kind of the steps that we're going to go through, right? They're developing the transmuters, they're developing the Triglavian technology, and Pochvin's kind of hitting a tension point. So, you know, as I said for years, like, they're piling powder onto the pile, and the spark was the Deathless kind of pulling the pin on everything and disrupting the diplomatic efforts. And who knows what other pieces that he was involved in. But the point of the matter is that was kind of the beginning of the collapse. What are the transmuters? This is a transmuter. Basically, it was developed by the Triglavians to mine the sun for energy and transform the sun, causing major changes to the spatial temporal environment around the star, i.e. the local space-time of the system, and presumably was integral to the creation of Pochvin. Every single activity in EVE Online has gatekeeping. Just so you know. For the record. Yeah. So the Amarr have developed their own transmuters. They put up 3 of them, and 2 of them have been captured by the Minmatar. So my assumption is that the Minmatar are going to be, or sorry, you know, the winners of these different competitions, the data competition and maybe even the mining competition or whatever, are going to unlock the new technology, and the new technology are likely going to be transmuters that could be used by, like, nullsec groups to customize their space. So, like, imagine if, depending on which transmuter you put on your star, you could make it so that, you know, combat anomalies don't spawn, but instead you get Rakavine, Beznazine, and Talassonite. Or you lose local, but get better, better bounties. You get what I'm saying? Like, who knows? But But if they're going to have a thing that allows you to customize a system, these are the way to do it. Yeah, that's fine. We'll deal with this. I tried. I really tried. How long can I? We'll try one more time. If he comes back and has a problem, then I will ban him. It's just unfortunate. All right. Why can't we have nice things, right? So yeah, lots of stuff happening. There will likely be lots of stuff happening up through the next month as we move closer and closer to the expansion. None of this even touches on the fact that the Crimson Harvest started today, which is kind of wild, right? A Scope News article, a Scope News video came out on the day that an event starts, and it doesn't even mention the event. I'm not saying that to criticize CCP or the Scope. It's just like, that's how much crazy shit's happening right now. Yeah. I cannot stress enough that we have never had two of these kind of organized events happening at the same time. But now we have the Gallente gate construction, or the gate construction event, the hacking event on the Minmatar Caldari side, and now the hacking event on the Gallente Caldari side, Minmatar Amar, yeah, whatever, and Crimson Harvest, all happening at the same time, which is exciting, both in the fact that there's so many different things to kind of do and get involved with right now. But in my opinion, I think it's even more exciting for the precedent this sets. You know, CCP has always been kind of limited with throughput on these events, and it would have already been nice to have multiple different things happening in different places. But up until now, everything's kind of had to take their turn. So I actually seriously love this idea of longer term events and, short-term events going on at the same time. That, for some reason, Blood Raider space is interesting, and these specific constellations in Lowsec are interesting. It for different reasons. I think that the more, if somebody logs in, the more things that they can be shown that they have to do, the better. I mean, asterisk, choice paralysis and good UI design and all that kind of stuff, obviously. Speaking of which, I was on the fence about it, but I will continue this competition until the event is over. Even though you can now gain the tickets through the hacking, that's fine. It's more in the spirit of the event more than anything, or of the competition, as if anything. But obviously, it'd be really awesome if we could build the gate. So until the event ends, then this competition continues. I will also accept, on top of just the sheets, when it comes down to it, I will accept the sheets, the turn-in tokens, the ships, or a lost mail of you in the ship. All three of those will be counted, because if you think about it, you can't have the ships without that number of tokens. And so each of those ships represents that many tokens. It doesn't matter. I can guarantee 100% that each one of those ships represent that many tokens. So either you have it at the end of the event, and therefore you can show me and get it counted, or if you lose it mid-event, then you are permanently the final owner of that ship. Riley, the whole point is that I don't care how you get the tickets, just that you have the most. No, because I haven't counted any. I haven't counted any tokens. What I'm saying is that when I do the count, I will count tokens, ships, and lost mails, all together. There has been a lot of concern about people that feel like they wanted to buy a ship. They were torn between buying the ship and saving the tokens to win the competition. So what I'm saying is that if you buy a ship, you can still use it for your credit for tokens. If you lose the ship, you can still use it as credits for your tokens. Does that make sense? Yeah, you can buy. So here's the thing. I don't care, Riley, because each of those tickets represents a quanta of work that is completed. So even if you bought the ticket and didn't do the activity that earned the ticket, you are now financing the person who did do it. So it still represents it getting done. And that person knew that they could have kept the ticket for themselves or sold it. So if you want to buy every Gallente ticket and win the prize, enjoy. I'm more than happy to have you single-handedly fund the Gate project for me. No, that's the reason why I really like this system, or that's why I wanted to do this competition, is because the ways that you would game it are all behavior that I would like you to do, right? Like, who cares if you buy it? Well, I mean, at this point, the Gallente are not going to build the Gate unless somebody does something pretty dramatic. And the Gallente militia, as a body, are very much embroiled in just simply trying to hold the territory that we have. So, what gate are you building? So in the system of Othanoon, the Caldari have already built their gate to Samanuni. The Gallente could build a gate to Amegnon. That gate is not completed. Yes, Epios of Focus, you get Overseer effects from the Crimson Harvest side, or the Blood Raider side, and you get blanks from the other side. And 23 tier Overseer's effects are very rare in high-sec sites, but that is considered a jackpot, but they definitely can be gotten. I have to say a lot of neutrals are dropping off ore, though. Yeah, that's great. Let's check on the progress, actually, since we're here talking about it. I stopped reporting it daily after the gate got built. Not really because the gate got built, but more because my life got so busy that, like, I needed to let something give. So, yeah, the Gallente are still under 8 million. So just under a third of the way still. So they would need a big change to see that happen. The research, I think, oh shoot. Sorry. There's the Gallente and the Caldari for the gate construction. How can you help build the gate? So let me just link you the thing real quick. Hold on. The details are theirs, but basically you go to the Surthud constellation, you mine the rocks that are in special Gallente labeled sites, and then you take that ore to the system of Othanoon, where there's a Gallente drop-off point, and you drop it in the box. It is worth noting that all of this is in the war zone, is constrained to one constellation, and all of these sites are completely open, non-dead space sites. So there are a lot of implied tasks and dangers in what was otherwise simple instructions that I just gave. All right. Now, the research was, I think, the most striking to me and really shows Caldari's commitment to this event. Look at the difference there. First of all, Caldari, assuming that this research event is just as easy to finish as the Minmatar Amarr one, like, let's look at this. So the Amarr have been doing this as long as the gate has been being under construction. The Triglavian relay research has only been like the last week. So I think the Amarr have probably had 3 times as much time to build up points, and they're at 20,000. And the Caldari are at 15,000. That is wild. Also, the Gallente are just not doing it. So look at that. 429. It is distinctly possible, unironically distinctly possible, that Spoons is the only person that has actually turned in any Triglavian data. Just based on we talked about this the other day. We were looking at it, like, just based on the points and how much points are turning in. We're not 100% sure. There's probably, in all reality, there probably was somebody else too. But it's just really funny. It is also worth noting that if you don't want to help either side of these, that Airtalker Research Consortium is offering a good bounty on all of these rewards for themselves. All right. No, that is not why I timed you out. And this is like, it's not going to be a timeout next time. So just chill out, dude. All right. And then of course the Amarr Minmatar side is not complete, but also, as we talked about earlier, it's worth noting that, the Amarr Minmatar side has 3 constellations worth of sites, where the Gallente Caldari side has 1 constellation. So they, in theory, have more sites available to them. But whereas the Caldari have solidly owned the Othanoon system and the Surthud constellation, so it's gotten all of the passive points, the Minmatar have been taking key systems, including 2 of the critical systems. So that's likely slowed down the Amarr's ascent and helped the Minmatar catch up. Isn't Calmil by far the biggest one? All right, man. I tried. I think that's probably true. I know that the Caldari is bigger than the Gallente. That is always true. But actually, let's check. No, it has to be true. It has to be true. It absolutely has to be true. Because the Amarr Minmatar side, both of them have less than the Caldari Gallente side. I think I can look at the stats. Yes. So the Amarr, no. Oh, those are kills. Pilots. Yes. So the Amarr have 27,000. The Caldari have 48,000. The Gallente have 40,000. And the Minmatar have 29,000. But this has always been true. The Caldari have always had the most numbers, and the Gallente have always been kind of the more dedicated pilots, in a way. Because the Caldari militia tends to focus on PvE and other things, because if you join the Gallente, you have to get locked out of JITA. So a lot of groups join the state in particular because it allows them to kind of still be connected to everything that's quote unquote important, right? You still can go to Caldari, JITA, you can still go to Amarr, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas the Gallente has always been full of people that join the Gallente in spite of the fact that they get locked out of JITA. And so historically, the Gallente have been more organized and better pilots. So, you have more members on the Caldari side, more kills on the Gallente side, for example. And this has been pretty much universally true. However, thanks to the Gallente Civil War and general apathy and decay, the Gallente Federation militia is was basically completely hollowed out. And then we saw a big upsurge of the Caldari militia that started somewhere in like 2020, 2021, and has been pretty much going strong since, making it so that the Caldari have the upper hand for the first time in nearly a decade right now, which is really impressive because the Gallente need to be able to get their shit together if they're going to want to do that. But tomorrow, I hope to be interviewing somebody, a very special interview, about somebody who's trying to do just that and get the Gallente's shit together. So I look forward to that. Triggs kicked the Caldari butts. We had to pick up the slack. It's true. It's also true that, like, of the RPers, like, the Amarr and the Minmatar both have their loyal groups. But I would say that probably there's at least as many, if not more, like, RP groups and sentiment among the Caldari than the Gallente. And the reason why that's important is because with faction warfare, it's like, it's about what motivates you, right? So there are more people that are willing to put in the work to see Caldari succeed because they're loyal to the Caldari as a concept, as an institution. That's their team. Than there are the Gallente. And the Gallente guys are often, like, if a Gallente militiaman is tied to anything, they're usually tied to the militia, not to the Federation as an entity. Whereas in the Caldari, you see, like, IRED, you see corporations and people that are tied to specific mega corporations. You see, a lot more integrated in the actual lore than you would see on the Gallente side. So that leads to the Caldari prioritizing these kind of lore structured objectives. Yeah, I did see that. There's a fix on retroactive completed. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, there's some good stuff in today's patch. So there was a problem of if you'd already completed tasks in air that are for air. I think that the good example was I had a buddy who was frustrated because there's a task to join a corporation, but he's already in the corporation and he doesn't want to quit and rejoin in order to trigger it because that shows up in your employment roster. So, like, he's like, I can't advance this, you know? But if you're already in a corporation, you should just get credit for the task, join a corporation, right? Yeah, Riley. There you go. Same boat. I'm sure that is a lot of people. Pretty much anybody who had an was at all established in EVE Online and also were willing to try out the air stuff when it came out ran into that issue. Okay. Does anybody know if Sissy's up yet? Let's find out. Hold on, real quick. Oh, somebody asked earlier what ASMR News is. ASMR News is Riley's news program where he covers the developments from the Caldari point of view. I also have an interview with him that you can watch on my... Hey! I made it in. Excellent. We'll just do this. Does that work? Is this going to work? Yay! Oh, got a cloak, got a cloak, got a cloak. That's not so bad. So we are at the captured prototype stellar transmuter on Singularity. Come on. Really? Camera work's such a pain in the butt. Cool. All right. So, I actually need the UI in this case. All right. Notes. There is a lot of stuff dropped on HoboLeaks today. A lot of stuff. Like the amount, the patch today on HoboLeaks to Sissy is one of those ones that's so big that it locks up my browser window when I open it, because it's got 1,000 text records and, 600 different images and stuff to load up. / copy skills, I think. So first and foremost, welcome to the Paragon Fulfillment Centers. Very nice use of the old Galente structure. It appears as if these structures are going to be in all of the main trade hubs, including Heck and Ren's, and a few other places. We also have these corporation emblems. There's one for basically there's corporation and alliance emblems for all of the different ships, or at least a lot of the different ships. Now, when you open up the fitting window and go to personalization, so there's equipment and personalization now. So it used to be that there's a third box up here with the skin icon, but now there's a new tab called personalization. And so from here, I can change the skin, but I can also set a corporation logo and an alliance logo. Now, if I go to the emblem section, it says emblems not released for this ship. I don't know if that's because I picked one of the few that doesn't have one, or it's not like wired in or not. Riley, this is the earliest. They have another month to do this. So I do not imagine that this, do not be like, oh my God, the UI is going to look like that. I doubt it. I very much doubt it. But probably this is way too big per element. Well, it worked fine, but the problem is that before there was one choice that you made for visual aesthetic, but now there's 3 choices to make for visual aesthetic. So you can't just keep it the way it was. Especially since these other slots are reserved for upcoming personalization options. So what I imagine that's going to happen here is that these boxes represents spots on the ship. And so depending on where you put any given heraldry piece will determine where the visuals, like here's the front plate pieces, here's the engine pieces. You get what I'm saying? Now, I'm not 100% sure about that, but that is absolutely possible. And it says that these slots are reserved for upcoming personalization options. So while we may not necessarily think that this UI is going to stay the same, or this number of slots are going to stay the same, it's clear that this is intended to have these extra slots be visible, and that there will be other ways to customize with the heraldry items. I don't know, Yer. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what this implies to me, right? Because you can have a corporation logo and an alliance logo. Like, there's not like, what is your heraldry? There is a number of boxes to put things in. Skin is just one option. Corporate alliance logo and corporation logo is just one option. I imagine that you just slot in the thing and make it happen, like make it work there or something like that. But my point is that it seems like you'll be able to potentially add multiple heraldries to the same ship, depending on the type of heraldry it is, right? Now, it's also... Shoot, what was I going to say about that? Oh, the other thing to take from this is, as I warned everybody a little while ago, I would only expect the heraldry system to incorporate the Corporation Alliance logos until or for now, right? Like when it releases. I don't think we're going to get Snake Hat for release, guys. I think that it's going to be the heraldry systems being put in, and they're putting out the logos, and when that's good to go, then they'll release more in subsequent patches, right? Listening outposts. There are now listening outposts for all 4 of the empires: Gallente, Caldari, Minmatar, and Amarr. However, remember how I said listening post event and how that could be tied to local? Well, it seems like I was half right. There are these listening posts that are coming out, maybe tied to those structures, maybe not. But it seems like there are these new devices, decoder ring, decoder SOP, all that stuff. And they go into the construction of the listening outpost. So you would get these decoders. Hold on. Decoder ring. An encoder ring. Ah, okay. So the decoder, the Amarr decoder litany, Minmatar decoder ring, Caldari decoder SOP, and Caldari and Gallente decoder device are listening structures, and the encoders, encoder litany, encoder ring, encoder SOP, and encoder device are the propaganda broadcast structures. Visually, they both look the same at the moment, but it says in the blueprints that wait, hold on. No, it says in actually these things. It says decoder used to make a Minmatar listening outpost that will listen in on the Amarr communications network, and an encoder used to make Minmatar propaganda broadcast structure that will broadcast into the Amarr communications network. So you get the Amarr encoder litany to make a Minmatar propaganda broadcast. That's awesome. I like it. So chances are these new pieces are going to be gotten through new hacking sites, like the ones that we've been seeing in the event that are defended. And the listening posts and propaganda towers are going to be involved in faction warfare in some way. And well, so okay, what does it mean by in some way? Well, we can actually go to the faction warfare map now, and it's a little bit changed. Nope, not that one. Not that window. The other window. So this is what the Warzone control map looks like now. And the default faction warfare window. Really wish they would just integrate this with with Aura, so that way, or sorry, the agency, so it's all in one place. Yeah, Allegiance system. Yeah, that's another thing to remind everyone. The Allegiance system isn't coming out until Q1 of next year. So when this first comes out, you will still have to join the militia as an entire corporation or as an entire alliance, or join the militia corporation as an individual in order to take part. But it's also like a lot of people are confused and think that the current event with the hacking sites and the mining sites requires you to be in faction warfare. Absolutely does not. You do not need to be in faction warfare in any way to take part in really any of the event pieces. The only thing you don't participate in is the actual capturing of the sites in the system to do warzone control, like the normal faction warfare stuff, right? Like you couldn't help the Minmatar take Egmar, but you could hack all the cans in Egmar and around it. Either way, this is all new. It's kind of cool. But if you see here, it says Amarr Empire advantage bonus. So you have the progress meter. You have how much contested it is. So it's 2.5% contested. The Minmatar have 20% advantage, and the Amarr have 10% advantage. My assumption is having propaganda towers of your empires, that is, having propaganda towers of the enemy type, and having the listening towers are going to give you this advantage bonus. I assume that these would have to be either in a front line or in a second line system, right? So we are going to construct these posts, and they're going to help with the advantage system, which is going to help in the contesting of the system in some way. That's what it seems like is being put together here. And you can of course destroy them. Nick, thank you for joining us down the rabbit holes of online. So if you can drop these things and secure them, then that can be really good for you. We'll have to see what it takes to destroy them, what it takes to build them, etc., etc. I'm sure we'll get a blog out soon that details this piece of the information. They usually don't wait too long after it's literally live on Sissy. Then there is Amarr Operations Center, Minmatar Operations Center, Caldari Operations Center, and Gallente Operations Center, which look suspiciously like hacking cans. So my assumption is that these are the cans that are going to be in the new sites that you go to hack to get the encoder and decryptor and decoder SOPs and rings and all that stuff, right? Depending on what empire you're doing it to. So if you go into an Amarr Operations Center and hack, or if you go into the Amarr site and hack the Amarr Operations Center that's defended by basic Amarr rats, then you can get an Amarr decoder litany or an Amarr encoder litany, which are used by the Minmatar to build the Minmatar listening outpost and the Minmatar propaganda broadcast structure, which then would be deployed to influence the, we're going to assume, advantage within the front lines or whatever. Yes, we are on Sissy right now. Does that make sense? Also, we have these new structures, the control zones. They say 30-kilometer control zones. The thing about this is that the buttons in a faction warfare plex kind of has three pieces. They have the outside gate, they have the beacon, and they have the button. The outside gate is where you land when you warp to it, no matter what. It's always in relationship to the gates. The gates, you can activate the gate if you're within 100 kilometers of them, and the gate will always make you land within 2.5 kilometers of the beacon. The beacon is the landing point of the acceleration gate. 10 kilometers away from the beacon is the button. The button is just this small little structure that you have to stay within range, and it'll that's what causes it to tick down. And the range is 30 kilometers. So my guess is that this is related to that these are like replacement structures for the new versions of the sites or whatever. Iris isn't Archer. Riley. What? That's actually a good point. We kind of skipped that in the news because we didn't get to that specific article. She's not human. You could say that she was built to look like an Archer, or yeah, right. She's modeled off of one, and it's likely because they have to pick something. You can't just select that your race is synthetic. By the way, creating a physical body for an artificial intelligence may not seem like much to just the average person, but it's probably the single most on-the-nose sus thing that could happen in EVE. Since there's an entire side plot that is related to the shooter about a rogue artificial intelligence attempting to hijack bodies so it can escape the artificial construct that it's trapped in. So combine that with precursor AI and illegal AI development in Yagalis and surrounding areas, it is super freaking sus for these guys to come out with an embodied AI 18 days after diplomacy failed, 9 days after the CEO died, 8 days since the new CEO took over, and 7 days since the entire corporation was restructured as another corporation. Don't worry, guys. They developed that AI in the last 7 days. They definitely didn't already have all this planned. And just in case anybody didn't catch that, I'm not talking about they as in CCP. I'm talking about they as in Dicasi and friends. So let's talk about this skin. First of all, I fucking love it. Right? Like, this is hot. It's kind of noisy, but like in a good way. It's got like blood splatters on the side. You remember the other day when the Marshall had the tears on the side, and I was like, that's really weird because of their reflective nature or whatever. Here you go. Look at that. There's the stamp. It's right there. This one up here, this piece right here that is in front, that was that piece that was on the front panel of the Marshall that made me think that it was like a hole in it or something like that, right? And these are the pieces that were on the side. So that's cool. Somebody applied the wrong reflective map, probably. So, you know what's weird about these skins? The Crimson Harvest came out today. And these skins are on Singularity, but not Tranquility. What the fuck? Right? Like, wouldn't you expect these to go live today? Wouldn't you expect to be able to buy these in the market today? They also don't have a purple diamond. So it's kind of interesting. Oh, that's like literally the same hole. The thing is that the Blood Raiders, and specifically this the Deathglow Hunters have been showing up quite a bit in the lore recently. Let's just say far more than you would expect them to. And also, right before all of this, they made a note where that was like, gosh, there's been not a lot of Blood Raider activity this last year. So the Blood Raider, the Deathglow Hunters, which are largely associated with the Blood Raiders, have associations with Khanid and Chakade from the fire bombings in 2016 and Deathglow bombings. They have connections with the Sekal, is it Sekal group? Sekal clan, I think it was. No. Yeah, maybe it was Sekal clan, but it's definitely the Anibra cult. That's what it is. The news was that the Anibra cult was making allegiance with the Deathglow Hunters. And at that point, every single person in my channel at one point or another in that sentence probably went, who? So the Anibra cult, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly. So the thing is that Intaki are largely very peaceful people, except for the groups that aren't, right? It's kind of like, oh, I hope this doesn't get me in trouble. No, it's kind of like the idea of like Buddhism, right? Like all over the place, Buddhism is seen as like this very peaceful, very mellow, or Tao, or, you know, whatever kind of environment. But in the there are places where the Buddhists have power, where they are just as fanatical, just as oppressive, just as violent as any other religious extremists, right? So the point is that while the Intaki have a very Taoist kind of style, the Anibra cult in particular, it's Aenibra or something like that. They are one of the death cults. This is also connected to Khanid and the fire bombs and all that stuff, because basically, first of all, the Intaki already did bombings. Like there was a death, like this death cult idea goes back all the way back to the original death, like bombings in like 2008 or whatever, when the Insurum bombings by the Blood Raiders and such. That was an echo in the 2016 attacks. But the idea is that there was a religious leader. The religious leaders of the Intaki are reborn. They're reincarnated. And this one in particular said that he would be reincarnated somewhere else, far away. And they claim to have found him as a slave on a Khanid vessel. So they tried to negotiate for the slave's release. The Khanid dude refused. A series of attacks began, terrorist attacks throughout the Amarr Empire, with one particular one to the Minmatar as well. But most of them were focused on the Khanid. And in the midst of all of this, they attempted to raid and board and rescue the religious leader and failed. So recently, as all of this stuff with the Deathless and all that kind of stuff has been growing, the Deathless brought over the conflict that was going on over on the Amarr Minmatar side, or rather the Minmatar side, with the Sekal clan and other, like the Thucker, the other Minmatar pirate kind of operations. And so the latest news was that the Anibra cult and the Deathglow Hunters were starting to have an allegiance with each other. So all that to be said, that this goes back to the fact that I still think, even though Space Wizard isn't an Intaki leader, like I said he would be maybe, but I think that the Crimson Harvest is going to kick off a piece of the arc where the Deathglow hunters kind of step into the ring and put some pressure on it somewhere. Because these skins appear to be part of like a login reward or like an event or whatever, because there's no diamonds on it. So it's not, it doesn't, they could theoretically still put a diamond on it, which means you buy it in the market or the premium store. But I can't think of a single time that they actually have changed whether or not it was a diamond once it was on Singularity, even though I always suggest that it could happen. So it doesn't look like these are going to be sold on the store. They could theoretically be like part of a Plex deal or something like that. They have a face like the Malagrin skin. No, the face is, hold on. Let's show the difference. Because it's very easy and obvious to show it. Hold on. So Paladin. Okay, so the Marshlight has a proper, oh my god, this is a terrible one to show it on. Or it's just causing problems. This one's got problems right now. Let's go. Avatar should have it good. Do you see the diamond? That's what I mean by the diamond, by the way, guys. So, is this going to do it? Valgorn will show it off good. If it can, if anything is. Yeah, I think that there's a little bit of a problem. But the point is that the Marshlight's head is like a jack-o'-lantern, right? Like a grin, but only the eyes and the teeth of the grin. Oh! I know which one shows it really good. I thought I did. Whatever. Yeah, there we go. See? That is a Halloween face, right? That is a jack-o'-lantern. Whereas that skull, that's the skull of the Deathglow hunters. This is Deathglow Remnant. And this is the Deathglow hunters. So, and these skins drop during this event in the sites. In theory. So my point is that everything about this suggests that this skin should be part of the Crimson Harvest event, and yet it is not. That feels like something that is worth noting. Either it'll be added later, like halfway through, although this event is already going to be kind of short. It's only going to be 11 days, 12 days instead of 14. But I suspect that in the same way that, you know, the Easter event kicked off all of this stuff with Garistus and Leopold and all that stuff, something's going to happen here to kick off something involving the Blood Raiders. Or sorry, not the Blood Raiders, but specifically the Deathglow hunters. Now, why is Deathglow so important, you might ask? Deathglow has two primary functions. As in its raw form, it is Deathglow, which can be is basically it's bath salts for EVE Online. Okay, like it will cause humans to go bonkers and lose control and become like adrenal monsters, right? Hallucinations, etc. That's why they used it on the Minmatar slaves, because it made them, mad enough to be able to like push past the Vitok toxin reaction and riot, because they're hopped up on the worst drug imaginable. But if you take Deathglow, hold on. What is Deathglow? Deathglow is made from chronodynamic tricarboxyls. Okay? So that is actually the Deathglow is the street term, but the scientific term is chronodynamic tricarboxyls. This is important, sort of. So this is chronodynamic tricarboxyls. It is gotten from a bunch of different rocks, specifically chthonic attar, which are the rocks that can be found in the Blood Raider sites. They may not be there this year because they kind of changed things, but for a year, every site, rather than just dropping accelerators, what it would do is there'd be some way to mine something to generate chronodynamic tricarboxyls, and then those chronodynamic tricarboxyls were used in not just these things that you can see, which are, there's a couple of implants, the cool data analyzers and stuff like that. Speaking of which, chronodynamic tricarboxyls have, I think, no remaining source in the game. So that's interesting when it comes to how much these pieces are worth. But the point is that all of the accelerators, the cerebral accelerators, yeah, it's a mineral. You refine chthonic attar and amethystic crystalline asteroid, or crystal, and it would refine into chronodynamic. No. Did they really, like, get rid of it all? Hold on. Ha! Can't stop me if I mind it. All right. So, chthonic attar. It says this unstable chemical flux of minerals designated as chronodynamic tricarboxyls can be obtained by reprocessing the rare ore chthonic attar. This is obtained from unique chthonic attar asteroids altered by the strange gravitational and electromagnetic fields effects of certain dead space pockets lying in immediate zones between shallow, stable dead space and the truly twisted depths of abyssal dead space itself. Chronodynamic tricarboxyls may be unstable, but they have many uses, including use as a catalyst material for synaptic acceleration implants and boosters. A darker use is the refinement of the strange material into Deathglow, a deeply mind-altering illegal booster that has recently found its way into the underground markets of New Eden. So that's what chthonic attar is. That's what chronodynamic tricarboxyls are. And that's what Deathglow is. So the Deathglow Hunters is a group think it says it on the skin. Yeah. The substance nicknamed Deathglow can be obtained by refining a rare material obtained from asteroids that have been altered by the strangely gravitational electromagnetic effects of certain dead space pockets, lying in zones between the shallow, stable dead space and the truly twisted depths of abyssal dead space. The Deathglow hunters are notorious criminals and partake of frenzied rituals using the substance. Recent intelligence suggests that Deathglow gangs are largely affiliated with the Blood Raider Covenant, a development that may indicate a desire on the part of the Blood Raiders to expand their operations into the drug and booster trade. So this was the first one that came out for it. Then the Remnants, I don't think has any better description. But then the Residue, you have... I don't think this says anything new here. This particular batch of Deathglow has decayed into toxic mess and would probably be enough to drop a Matagu sea beast stone cold dead, if you could find one. And then Top Grade says, this particular batch of Deathglow is top grade stuff and likely intended for shipment to the Galente black market in exotic boosters, or perhaps it was ordered by the Vercorior shaman. Oh. Bets that's the Sprace Priest, right? We keep on saying shaman, and we now know that he's Mimitar. That makes him very likely very Verrocchior shaman. What if the space wizards were the friends we made along the way? All right. So that's why this is kind of interesting, right? Because all of this is happening. It's loosely connected to the Crimson or to the Blood Raiders. It is strongly tied to the Crimson Harvest. The Crimson Harvest is live, and yet, again, these skins are not on Tranquility yet. So definitely worth keeping an eye on because those skins are pretty cool looking. Like, this is a pretty gnarly skin for a Retribution that you fly in Firestorms, right? Like if you did like Firestorm Abyss in a Retribution, this is the skin to use, right? I mean, unless you have Abyssal Glory, but like, yeah, no, I think this is like objectively the correct skin to use if you're flying a Retribution in the Abyss, especially in a Firestorm. But you know, that's just me. Yes, this is the new. Well, it's more than just the new skin preview window because they're implementing a new. It's part of the heraldry system. Oops. So now you're going to not only be able to customize your skin, but there's going to be other things that you can slot in to add like particle effects and stuff around your ship. For now, it's just going to be Corporation and Alliance logos. But this is what this Evermore thing is all about. All right. I think I meant to... I said I was going to skip it, but I think that's probably a big mistake. So let me go back. I need to wrap up, but... Tomorrow, like I said, I hope to be doing a really cool interview. And we'll see about like trying out some of the, or running some Blood Raider sites live or something. Where is it? There. All right. So this is the news article we didn't talk about earlier. it is mostly an interview, but there is notes here that are really important. So Evermore, which is that new organization that came from Interbus, Alexander Ducasse transformed Interbus into Evermore. Orphe Genesis. Maheo 1, thank you for joining us down the rabbit hole. Orphe Genesis. Alexander Ducasse has unveiled Evermore's latest venture, Paragon, a new corporation specializing in capsuleer relations. Paragon's launch will be accompanied by the construction of 11 new stations across New Eden. The new venture will offer exclusive services to capsuleers in exchange for items rather than ISK. In return for provided items, Paragons will be offering advanced nano-holographic projections for capsuleer vessels. Heraldry. The first set of items requested by Paragon are ship hulls. Hey, 07 to you for that. Thank you so much for that sub and supporting the channel. You get all those cool emotes. The first set of the items requested by Paragon are ship hulls. What Paragon or Evermore intends to do with these ships remain unclear. They're going to sell them for money to other players. Just pre-digest that fact now. Paragon's biggest innovation, however, is Iris, the corporation's executive officer, customer liaison, and chief representative. Iris is the first soft AI to be granted organizational control over a corporation in New Eden history. And unlike other AI... Why does this sound like such a shitty fucking idea? Jesus. All right. And unlike other AIs, while Iris intelligence may be virtual, her body is made of flesh and bone. Uh-oh. So then there's this interview. So they gave a physical body to an AI. This may be innocuous under normal conditions, but in EVE Online, that is like the biggest of red flags. As I said earlier, artificial intelligence trying to get a body of their own is an underlying theme is one of the major arcs that have been brewing under the surface. So, yeah. Now, I think a battleship, command ship, T3 cruiser are probably going to be your best choices for the event sites. And as always, it's like doing it with 2 people is vastly easier than just doing it solo. So, we can actually go here and there's a new agent named Iris. They're level 1 agents in all 11 stations. So it's Amamaki, Amar, Asa, Abanal, Dodixi, Hakoken, Hek, Jita, Orphe, Renz, Yahaba, and Iris. Which means Orphe will finally have an actual proper station. This reminded me of the AI targeting system leaked that was never before seen and illegal prior to the Trig invasion. Dean, do you not know what that was? Because it wasn't like a mystery. Paragon is, of course, the new organization. It's part of Evermore. Paragon was founded by Evermore as a luxury service for what they offer to New Eden's true elites, the Capsuleers. Using brand new nano-holographic technology, Paragon is the first company to offer programmable holograms that create floating emblems on ships. Paragon is both representative and ran by Iris, a cloud-based... Oh, that's the cloud-based thing. Cloud-based soft AI hosted in multiple human bodies from stations dotted around New Eden. She makes exclusive offers in exchange for unique items. So... So, to summarize, you are going to have to bring specific ships to one of these 11 stations, talk to this lady right here, give them to her, and then she will give you the points to allow you to buy the logos. And the stations look like this. Cool? Is it a good idea to turn in stuff? So what's really happening here is almost a year ago now, CCP released a package deal that included a fit retriever. Now, up until this point, no ship had ever been sold by CCP that was not already given away as part of things like the MPE, i.e. destroyers, exploration frigates, etc. The retriever represented a major escalation of this because all retrievers in the game up until that point existed because a player built it. And this made it no longer true. However, at the time, CCP said that they were going to introduce a new program to make it so that we still build the ships, because the problem was not that CCP is selling ships for cash, strictly speaking. The problem is that CCP is competing with players for the production of those ships, right? Everybody who produces ships, or that ship, now has a new competitor, and that new competitor can make them from black magic. And that's really scary for things like people that build, say, battleships that require a lot of commitment. So the point here is that now we will turn in ships into... that's an interesting question, Kamina. I'll get there. We will donate the ships that they've asked for to one of these facilities. We will get points for holograms. So none of it's worth any money. They can't be traded, can't be bought, can't be sold, can't be anything. Once the stuff that you get from turning in the ships cannot be represented in a value of ISK because you can't sell it. So if I have a Caracal, I can sell that Caracal on the market for ISK, or I can give that Caracal to Iris for Everbucks, we're going to call them, right? And then use my Everbucks to buy my corporation logo. And then CCP turns around and sells those ships as a deal on the store. And their stockpile is what we've turned in. Now, let's get to a couple of questions. I still think this is a bad idea to sell things in the shop that even if they've been handed out by people. Who's to say that the numbers match up and they don't match up perfectly? Either is going to be creating fake demand or fake supply. Well, I mean, we're just going to have to trust CCP that they're doing it that way, but we already have to trust CCP that they're not magically creating Caracals and seeding them on the market, right? Like, I mean, if they want to secretly increase things more than, or like provide things that they say that they're not, they could easily just do that already. It behooves CCP for people to trust in this system, right? Because they need the players to buy into the idea that this is okay. So it would surprise me if they didn't have some sort of way to be assured that every ship that's sold was in fact built by a player. Now, this is the only Paragon Fulfillment Center right now. How would players even ever know if that's true, though? How would you know that every Caracal that's on the market was built by a player? How would you ever find out? Yeah, okay. Well, then it's the same. No, it's just, Krovan, anytime I talk about this, I use a Caracal as my example. I don't know, like the archetypal version of this is like the Rapid Light Caracal, right? Like, I don't know where I got that in my head, but it's always been like my go-to ship for the example for this discussion. Yeah, it could be an asset sink as well. Why not use a Drake? because Drake has a bunch of other connotations. Caracal kind of sounds is a bit of more of a fun word to say, and I wanted to stick with. So frigates and destroyers are both given out for free. So the lowest tier that would be a violation of the rules would be cruiser. So I stuck with cruiser. If you really want to know. Now then, no, that is hilarious though. Meaning you don't have trust in CCP. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that CCP does show us numbers. And like I said, I would not be surprised if CCP did not show us at least some sort of graph at a fan fest somewhere that shows how many were turned in versus how many were sold, right? Because, like, yeah, that's definitely part of the answer, right? Like, that's part of the question. That's part of the issue here. And so that's what CCP needs to assure us is doing well. I mean, they did all of this. Just think about it this way. CCP just spent 3 years trying to put in DirectX 12. Also, they could put in their new particle system and visual effects systems that they've been working so hard for. They've dedicated countless hours of their art team and technical teams in both building the tools to do it and all of the assets that are required to make all this stuff work. Rather than putting these things on the premium store and selling them for cash, which would be the obvious solution, right? They're not being. The only way to get these is through in-game activity. In this case, building and turning in ships. But that's only going to be the first thing that they've said. So they could have turned that effort into a revenue stream. But instead, they turned it into an activity rewarder. Do you understand how bonkers that is from like a business standpoint, that they would develop a giant cosmetic system and then not sell it for cash? Do you know how insanely crazy that is? Do you know what that means about how much CCP wants you to be out there and doing things? It is worth more to them for you to be able to do that than for them to get the money that they would get with us paying them for these lovely holograms. That's wild. So the notion that they're going to half-ass it and somehow fuck it. Okay, well, it is CCP, so there's always the chance. But you'd think, like, if you're willing to do all of that, it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that they would risk fudging it up. Especially since, like, hopefully it'll be more popular than that, right? Like, I think that there's just as much chance, if not more, that they get too many caracals for how many they sell, or for how many they plan on selling, and not too little, right? So, and I'm sure, like, they could even do it where the actual store itself says how much stock is left, right? So that way we can watch the numbers go down. I don't know. There's ways to do it. I'm just saying, like, of all of the different pieces to it, trusting CCP to actually sell the ships that they're doing, like, they're already going pretty far out of their way to make this work for us, I would say. But yes, never underestimate CCP's ability to fuck it up. That's true. That's why I corrected myself halfway through that. But I think that there could very well be problems with this system, but I don't think that that's one of them. Either way, I will close with this thought, though. Probably close this topic probably with this thought, which is that the thing to remember is that the reason why all of this is happening is because CCP has determined, basically beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the single best thing that they can do for getting people to get deeper into the game is to sell them a fit ship. I'm not sure if I like it either, but I've talked to several people in the CSM. I've talked to several people in CCP, both privately and publicly, about this matter. And the God honest truth is, you can sell people Plex, you can give people even a fit to go buy, but a new player doesn't know how to do any of that. So if you give them a fit ship, then that gets them in the door. And at least they have something. And when that ship gets killed, at least they have the record of what was fit on that ship. They're one step closer to understanding how to fit a ship. And that is worth, for some people, to buy a pack of a small amount of Plex and stuff, so that way it comes with a fit destroyer with it. Not enough Plex to buy a destroyer, because that's not good enough. That Plex to buy a destroyer and a destroyer are not the same thing. There's too many implied tasks in the Plex situation. So the idea is that it's not supposed to be efficient. It's not supposed to be, the best way to get these ships. Most of the time, it's not even a considered value. You get about the money's worth of value, worth of Plex or account time or whatever in the bundle as well, like you did with the Retriever pack. And therefore, like, I think the Retriever pack was $20 and you got a Retriever, but you also got about $20 worth of account time, if I remember correctly. So the point is that this is, quite frankly, a retention tool, plain and simple. It's a way for CCP to be able to show off cool fits for things. It's a way to get people to baby step their way into having, into the universe. It's a way for CCP to generate some revenue and expand out into this way instead of being locked out of it for what amounts to arbitrary personal reasons of ours. And it allows them to do it all while preserving the actual market, right? Because these are they're non-comparable, right? If you want a hologram, if you want that hologram, you've got to turn in the ships. It doesn't matter how much ISK you have. And likewise, that hologram isn't worth any ISK. You can't turn it into ISK. So it's a totally separate track, which means, it could create a pressure on the market where caracals are being bought up off the market in mass to be turned in. But that is play and counterplay. That is the markets doing their job. You get what I'm saying? So that's interesting to see. So I think that, like, if you could go in an environment where I've often said that the real problem here is that CCP doesn't teach people how to fit a ship confidently. So that's the best answer. But barring that, if you do have to do this kind of thing, which games continue to have to modernize and find new revenue streams and stuff, I think that this is probably the best way to do it. And again, with the idea that they can now use these Interbus points or whatever, Everbucks, to incentivize whatever activities they want people to do. Because here's the thing. We keep talking to CCP about the need to bring content. But guess what? What is the content in EVE? The content in EVE, the true content, are other players, right? The real content is your interactions with other people, good or bad. That is the content. Everything else is just background noise designed to generate those encounters. I'm not kidding. It doesn't matter if you're a single player or not. That's the fundamental, like that's what the engine of EVE Online is. Preach it. All right. So, but this allows them to now directly reward people for going out there and getting involved, doing things in game. I can't see a way other than ignoring all the details and just only focusing on the fact that they're selling ships is the only way to look at this and, like, see it as a problem, in my opinion. All right. Oh yeah, there are always going to be people finding a way to complain, because in the end they don't even need facts if it gets right down to it. The facts are only convenient, right? Yeah. which is why I don't want CCP stirring the pot, incentivizing people to do this or that or the other. Leave the ecosystem undisturbed. Drop in new toys and whatnot if you want. So now we get, but the CCP tried that, and now everybody's complaining that CCP didn't give them any content, right? Like that's what an event is, though, Shara. Like it's just. Here's the thing. Different incentive. All of the activities have incentives on them. If CCP shouldn't be incentivizing this thing or another, then remove all bounties from anomalies, remove all loot from the abyss, remove all loot from hacking cans. Like, obviously that's absurd, but my point is that every activity has rewards. Every activity, and those rewards exist as rewards. Not, I mean, like they can do its own thing, but like they exist as rewards to cause people to do that activity. So the fact that they can make it so that like today you need to kill a player, next day you need to mine some ore, or you know, whatever, like almost like skills for kills. Rewards aren't incentives. Okay, so if I join Faction Warfare and I go run plexes and I get rewarded LP, are you saying that that LP is not an incentive to do Faction Warfare? The point is that creating agitation in the game by CCP, and by that I mean like small fluctuations, not anger, but by making it so that there's always a different thing that's being incentivized, and like there's always a different event going on, there's always things happening. We no longer have to assume that the world is completely sterile and sits as this static thing that we poke at the way we want to in order to get the thing that we want. No, it's a living universe that has different kinds of things available at different times with different amounts of ease or difficulty. That is, in my opinion, a better design. It doesn't eliminate the sandbox, because the sandbox is about the way we are allowed to interact with each other, not the things that there are to interact about, right? It's the ability to project our will into the universe and make a change, even if it's temporary, right? So the challenges function as catalysts. So now people need to figure out how they want to do it. Organizations need to decide whether or not they want to get involved. Like as an organization, people will come into conflict with people. People will meet. You'll meet and get to know the other people that are really involved in this particular iteration of the points, you know? And so I think that while I get the gut reaction, the defensive reaction of people with things like Abyss and this and other things, just realize that, like, the way I like to think about it is we like to say that EVE Online is about player choice. But if the CCP doesn't give us anything, we can't choose anything, right? If CCP says, you should go mine today, now you have a choice. You can listen or not listen. And there are consequences for each. Maybe not listening is actually going to be better than listening for some reason, right? But the point is that you now have a thing to react to. It's just like this Faction Warfare event right now, right? The Faction Warfare event is happening. It's going to have consequences. It's going to be locked in the ever-told story of Eve, right? It's happening. And because it's happening, you get to choose how you want to be engaged. Whether that's participate in helping one side, whether it's going and preying on all the people that are trying to get something done, whether it's trying to collect the tickets so you can make money, whether it's ignoring the entire fucking thing because it doesn't matter to you. Those are all totally valid choices, and choices that you could not make if the event wasn't happening. That is why events are not incompatible with the sandbox. Does that make sense? These objectives, rather than being artificial, function as catalyst points for our storytelling. It's my preference that people who's to source something for the player base, not for CCP. Well, but they are. That statement is so confusing, because like every Caracal that's sold on the market is sourced for the player base, right? And all this is just another way. Like, the idea is that, think about it this way. It allows us to sell stuff for cash, but we don't actually get the cash. You get what I'm saying? Like, it protects it from RMT too. So, and it gives us a new thing to do. Especially since if they use T1 hulls, let's be frank, T1 hulls are almost never profitable. So, like, the incentives are based on players' desire. I see what, hold on. I see what you're saying. What I'm hearing from you now is that what you don't like about it is that the player base don't decide what ship hulls the Paragon Fulfillment Center is going to be asking for. Therefore, what ship is being focused on is artificially decided and not through player. Okay, well then I lost it. But we're probably going to have to take this on tomorrow, unfortunately. Sorry, we'll have to continue this tomorrow. I need to go. I needed to go 20 minutes ago. So I've been Ashtarothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put even into context for you, my fellow Empyreans. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for checking it out. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube. I put stuff out there and it could use some love. Make sure, oh yeah, it still didn't work. Awesome. Make sure if you do, especially with these New Eden News article videos, I'm going to be honest with you. They're not doing as good as a lot of the other videos. So if you like me doing them, I do them as a service because I want people to be exposed to the news articles that come out a lot more. So please go give it a view, give it a like, and share it with some friends. Like, I know we say this all the time. It's super cliche for a YouTuber to say that kind of stuff. But at this point, it really is true. So, yeah. That being said, let's find somebody to raid. Also, you can join the Convocation of Empyreans. We are maximizing player engagement with EVE Online. Aderon Robotics is recruiting, and the Gallente Warzone needs your help. The Build a Stargate competition is still going on. Collect your tickets. I will accept, at the end of the event, I will accept tickets, ships, and ship losses as evidence of your points. Person with people with the 20 most points wins. Let's go with Owlsec. He's doing event sites. Sweet. Awesome. And with that, also thank you to all of my supporters, especially the patrons and the people that are too numerous to count that subscribe today, and everybody else. I'm more than happy to be able to do this for you guys. And I will see you tomorrow, almost surely. Knock on wood. So until next time, I've been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and I'll see you in space.
Bring on the wrecking machine. voices.